The Los Angeles Rams, the number 4 seed of the NFC, taking on the number 5 seed Minnesota Vikings, who ended the season with a 14-3 record and still a wild card team. Your Rams sitting at 10-7. This game kicks off at SoFi Stadium, 5:15 p.m. On Monday Night Football, ABC and ESPN. We get Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on the call. Lisa Salters and Laura Rutledge will be on the sideline. You radio listeners, we do appreciate you. JB, MJD, and D4, they will be broadcast, of course, on ESPN 710, as well as Westwood 1 this week. So pretty big stuff there. You bettors, Rams are plus 1.5, plus 100 on the money line, and 47.5 is your over-under. Heads up, if you are planning on going to the game, there is a contingency plan in place due to the fires going on in the Los Angeles area. If you are affected by these fires, we are certainly thinking about you. If there's anything that I can do to help out, I'm in Colorado. If there is anything I can do, hey, feel free to let me know, man. If there's, some GoFundMes or something I can share, definitely let me know about it. Any way I can help, I'm willing to. I'm just not sure what I can do at this point. But either way, the game announced by the NFL, the game will happen on Monday Night Football. But if the fires do impact it, the game's ability to be played at SoFi Stadium, the game will be moved to Arizona. And the Rams will be having a home game, a home playoff game in the Arizona Cardinals Stadium. So if that is something that if you are going out to the game or anything, you're in the area getting impacted by this, obviously that's something that we're keeping our eyes on. I will say, not being from the area and also not being in the area right now, I don't know the situation on how close it is to the stadium or anything. From what I've seen online, the stuff that I have looked up, it doesn't look like it's very close to the stadium. But obviously, lots of things can happen, and I think that air quality will be a concern as well, not just flames, you know what I mean? So if the air is too bad to be in the area, obviously I think that the NFL would potentially do something about that as well. So just a heads up though, contingency plan is in place due to the fires that are going on in Southern California. Also, this is the first playoff game at SoFi Stadium since the Super Bowl, which is rather cool stuff. First official home game for the Rams since the NFC Championship game, however. That was technically a road game for the Rams in the Super Bowl. Technically. All right. I know it's our stadium and stuff, but yeah, that was technically a road game. So officially the most previous home game for the Rams in playoffs, coming in that NFC Championship game, defeating Jimmy Garoppolo in the 49ers. What an exciting day that was, man. Holy moly, that was exciting. Good stuff. Rams also, by the way, were the 4 seed in that Super Bowl run, that 21 season. So pretty cool stuff there. Rams under Sean McVay are 7-4 in the postseason, 56-58 all time, though. I believe that was the right number. Is it 56 or was it 26? 20. One of those. Both teams, by the way, coming into the postseason off of a loss, though. The Rams did sit their starters last week, or the bulk of their starters last week. Minnesota Vikings, though, did not, as they were actually playing for the number 1 seed. Lost 31-9 to the Detroit Lions for that top seed. Ended up having to go on the road. So, yeah, for a game that definitely meant a lot, not only confirming that throughout the playoffs, you will get to play at least those 2 home games as long as you keep winning. Or you go on the road and you're a wild card team, like you get home games and a week off, or you have to go on the road and play largely road games throughout the playoffs if you continue to win. And Minnesota Vikings came in and did not have a strong showing in that game last week against the Detroit Lions. So I think Detroit showed us a little bit about how you can slow down this Vikings offense. So hopefully, that's going to pop up in tape, obviously, but hopefully take a couple of them pages for ourselves in this one, you know what I mean? Vikings did have a 9-game winning streak before that loss to the Detroit Lions, which had actually started the week after they played our Los Angeles Rams. So they lost to the Rams, and then last week lost to the Lions, won every game in between that, though. It's a big loss last week, though. Obviously, we talked about 31-9. That's a massive difference there. And then the previous 2 games for the Minnesota Vikings won by a combined 5 points. That was against the Seahawks and the Green Bay Packers. Rams, by the way, 5-4 at home on the season. Vikings are 6-2 on the road. Of course, one of those losses coming at SoFi Stadium to the Rams. Vikings were swept by the Lions and then also lost to the Rams, meaning that the Vikings could be losing 4 total games this season to just 2 teams, which is, I don't know what you take from that. I don't know how you can take that as a Vikings fan. I don't know if you like take that and kind of like hang on to it. Like, yeah, well, we only lost to 2 teams. It's like, yeah, but like in the playoffs, like, does that still hurt? Yes, it does, probably. Let's take a look at the history of this. So we'll talk about the most recent meeting between these two because that happened this year. That was in Week 8, Thursday Night Football. Rams coming out on top 30-20. 4 touchdown passes coming from Matthew Stafford on that day. The Vikings scored touchdowns on their first 2 drives, but then just scored 6 points. So I know a lot of Vikings fans are going to comment or have commented about the final play, the final offensive play for Minnesota in that game. Byron Young getting the safety. A lot of people are commenting on that one and saying like, yeah, well, what would have happened if they would have called it? It's like, I don't know. We'll never know. It may be nothing, probably nothing, because the Vikings have scored 6 points after their first 2 drives. I don't think I had a lot of trust in the Vikings' ability to move the football all the way down the field. Even if you do get that face mask, you probably just get, I mean, do you? I don't know. That's the thing, is we'll never know that answer. But 6 points after those first 2 drives, I think, is the argument against it. It's like, no, they weren't going to do it. Like, they were not moving the ball at all, really, after those first 2 drives. It was 14-14. Both teams scored on their first 2 drives, and the Rams were able to put a lid on that Minnesota offense. Kyren Williams on that day had 23 carries for 97 yards and a receiving touchdown. So obviously 23 carries, that is definitely something we'd like to see again from Kade Bukanakua. Had 7 receptions for 106 yards coming back into the action there. That was about when he had come back. Was that his first? I don't remember his first game back, but it was about then that he was getting back into the swing of things. Demarcus Robinson, D-Rob, had 2 touchdowns on this day. That was exciting stuff. Sam Darnold had 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and threw for 240. Aaron Jones, 19 carries for just 58 yards. So Rams did a good job on the ground attack on the defensive side there. Justin Jefferson, 8 receptions for 115 yards. We did have D-Will that day as well, so he was back in the action. But that was all this past game. This is the 49th all-time meeting between these 2 teams. The Vikings do lead the all-time series 27-19-2. The Rams have won the last 3 against the Vikings. Before that, though, the Vikings had won 5 straight. First ever game between these two came on November 5th of 1961. The Rams won that game 31-17. The most recent, Week 8, we just talked about that one. And this is the 8th postseason meeting between these 2 teams, with the Minnesota winning the bulk of them here. We'll just run through them here. So 1969, the Western Conference Championship, 23-20 Vikings. 1974 NFC Championship game, that was 14-10 Vikings. 1976 NFC Championship game, that was 24-13 Vikings. 1977 had a divisional game, that was 14-7 Vikings. 1978 had a divisional game, that was 34-10 for the Rams. 1988 had a wild card game between these two, 28-17 for the Vikings. And then the 1999 season, you might remember, was a pretty fun one. Game played officially in 2000, though. That was a divisional game, 49-37 for the Rams. And almost pinnacle, like, greatest show on turf kind of, offensive just explosion in that game. The way that just, both teams were just going off on offense. 5 touchdown passes to 4 touchdown passes. I'm trying to remember some of the crazy plays. I remember Bruce's touchdown in that game. Yeah, just, high-flying action. In, like I said, pinnacle greatest show on turf kind of antics coming out of that offense in that game, which was obviously wildly exciting. Had the following week had a game of very low numbers. Was that 13-9 or what? Was that the final? Man, I don't know why I'm blanking on that one right now. It was that Bucs game, which was crazy as well. But what a fun playoff run that was. But a 49-point performance from the Rams in that divisional game, of course, going on to eventually win the Super Bowl that year. Great times. Since that last playoff game, which was in January of 2000, the series is tied at 6-6. So nothing too wild happening. But like I said, Rams have won the previous 3. Hoping to keep that streak alive. Let's head over and take a peek at the matchup here. This is the Rams offense going against that Minnesota Vikings defense. The Rams on offense, about middle of the road here, 15th in the league, going against the middle of the road defense out of the Minnesota Vikings, ranking 16th. Passing the rock, Rams are a top 10 unit, although those numbers have dwindled over the last month or so, going against the 28th ranked pass defense for the Vikings. Running the rock, a little under 104 for the Rams. That's 24th in the league, going against the number 2 ranked run defense out of Minnesota. Points being put up a game, about 21.5 for the Rams. That's 20th in the league, and going against the Vikings, giving up 19.5. That is 5th. And on third down, the Rams converting 36.8. That's tied for 23rd in the league. And the Vikings defense giving up 35.6. That is 4th in the NFL. So on the ground and on third down is definitely where the Vikings are making their money. They can get got through the air. So that is something to think about for sure. And especially I think that you have to kind of consider for the Rams offense is that under Matthew Stafford, I mean, there was multiple games in a row under 200 passing yards. That's a big difference, you know what I mean, from what we saw in like the 21 season where it was like anything under a 300-yard game was like, oh, well, what's going on with Stafford? Is he okay out here? And now we're like 181 and we're like, he's fine. I don't know if I'm gaslighting myself or you, but either way, I do trust him, you know what I mean? Because coming off of a week where we got to have him rest up, I think that was huge. He did look a little bit like he needed to take a break. And also, let's not forget, our bye week was super early. We were in week 6 for our bye week. So it's been a while since these guys have had a break. So that was really huge, I think, to get guys like Matthew Stafford a break. Kupp as well. Nakua, it's good to get anybody just a little bit of a breather. We're getting into January football now. Everyone's exhausted and beat up. So to be able to rest your starters for a week, I think is absolutely huge. We obviously know that Minnesota couldn't do that because they were trying to get the number 1 seed, failed at doing so, and in the process also gave us a sweet blueprint on how to beat them, you know, which on the offensive side for Detroit was really just a lot of bullying, which is something that we have seen from Minnesota throughout the season, is that front is able to get bullied. I know that they have the number 2 ranked run defense here, but ultimately, any game that I have watched of Minnesota, and I have watched a good chunk of them, I've got plenty of Vikings fan friends, and I watch a lot of football, but every time that I've watched them, it kind of just feels like that defensive line is able to get got. There, you can push them back, and our starters on the offensive line, getting all 5 in there now, for only really the second time, that's going to be really nice to get everybody, well, not offensive line second time, but second time all season we get our starters on offense all together. So that's obviously big news. One cool thing here is I thought this was an interesting little stat here. Harrison Smith playing in his 200th career game on Monday Night Football. That's pretty cool stuff. Harrison Smith had that cool hat, said "Make football violent again." I just remember that from years ago, and I was a big fan of that. That's all. Yeah. Week of rest, though, for the bulk of the big names last week, like I had mentioned. That's obviously absolutely huge. And second official game, having all 11 starters back on offense. So we got Higbee back. We had that for one game, and then Havenstein got hurt in practice. So we haven't seen him back on the field since. We'll be playing on Monday Night Football. So we have all of our 11 starters playing and good to go now, which is kind of crazy heading into the playoffs. I'll definitely take it. You know what I mean? Rams offense has seemed very pulled back since the Buffalo Bills game as well. So I'm looking to see a little bit more creativity out of this team. Not take everything that we've seen in December and forget about it. Okay. Just, or the whole regular season, just dump it from your brain. Okay. Because it doesn't matter anymore. All right. I don't care that the Rams were 24th in running the football. They could go off for 350 this week. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean by that, of throw that out. Just because your averages are sitting in a certain spot doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen. And especially you get into the playoffs with an experienced staff like the Rams do have, and veterans who have done this before on the offensive side. I think that ultimately we should see more creativity in this game. And like, we haven't seen like really jet sweeps since the Bills game, stuff like that. I'm expecting this offense to be a lot more creative, a lot more flashy, a lot more fun this week than we've seen in previous weeks. Best matchup that I've got for you on this one for the Rams offense going against that Vikings defense, I'm going Byron Murphy and Stephon Gilmore going against Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Look for this to mismatch throughout the game. Obviously, we're going to see Murphy on Nacua and Kupp and vice versa. So we're going to see a good mix in that world. But this is a great matchup for just a strong secondary of the Vikings, and you could, again, rankings, you throw them out of here. They've got good players there. But I think that ultimately we got some really proven route surgeons that they're going to be asked to defend, and I like our matchup here, actually. Byron Murphy and Stephon Gilmore, definitely not bad corners, but Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, give me that combo over any other combo that's in the NFL right now. And yes, I'm still taking Cooper Kupp today over most receivers in the NFL. I understand that it is very much what can you do for me, not what have you done for me, but I still think that Cooper Kupp is capable of just going off at any moment. I think that we might see a playoff Kupp kind of pop in this week as well. So that's kind of what I'm looking for in this one. That's why I'm giving this the best matchup. And it's also always possible that Stafford has one of those days, you know what I mean? And just absolutely just goes off and is just nailing it. No looks, just absolutely just spotting it up down there, man. So we can absolutely see that as well. But Murphy and Gilmore, worthy adversaries, man. Worthy adversaries. This should be a fun one to watch unfold. 3 to see on the Rams offensive side. We're going to start with K-Dub, Kyren Williams. Williams went for 61 yards on 13 carries in the Rams wildcard game a year ago against the NFC North Detroit Lions. So nothing too crazy last year, but I'm looking for McVay to get a little bit more run heavy, as it is likely the focus this week to win time of possession. I would assume that you want to keep, Darnold and Jefferson and all those guys, Aaron Jones, keep those guys on the sideline. We'll want you out here. You know what I mean? So time of possession, I feel like, is going to be big in this one. Kyron's been playing some really, really good football, and with a week off, hopefully, just getting that stamina back, man, getting those legs a little bit freshened up and ready to just play 4 more, dude. Just 4 more games. That's all we need, man. Fell 1 yard short of 1,300 on the year with a 4.1 average. Solid average coming out from K-Dub. And I will say this. I feel like Kyren Williams getting anything less than 18 carries in this game needs to be considered a crime. I think that we have to just go ahead and, especially Corum's out, so we know that K-Dub is our guy. I think that anything under 18, we need to have some police, called if this is going to be a thing. Next up, I'm gonna package one here. All right, this is a unit. Puka Nacua Cooper Kupp. That is a unit. Kupp does lead the franchise in wild card receiving yards, as well as receptions, actually. No one's ever lit up the wild card round like Cooper Kupp has, man. Kupp's numbers definitely struggled this season, especially late in the season where he had a game where he didn't even get a reception, But let's not pretend like it's not possible that he and Stafford just go off at any moment. They're still Stafford and Kupp, you know what I mean? It's not like Kupp is playing in a way where it's like, oh, he doesn't have it anymore. We're not seeing him run routes anymore where it's like, oh, he used to be able to run that route, now he can't. You know what I mean? Like, it's still happening. He's still doing all the stuff. He's not getting the targets, which I do think is not getting enough credit in the situation of Cooper Kupp not getting the statistics like he used to. The targets are not there. But also, I don't know if you guys have heard, this Puka Nacua kid, pretty dang good also. So the targets going that way should not be hurting any feelings anywhere. I don't know. Maybe there aren't any, except for random fans that are getting their feelings hurt because Cooper Kupp is not getting the receptions. But I'm sure he's fine. You know what I mean? But either way. Speaking of going off at any moment, though, Puka Nacua, dude. Puka Nacua, man. He does that all the time. And if Kupp isn't the guy, and if he's not doing it, Puka Nacua's there. And if Cooper Kupp isn't getting the receptions, which, whatever. I mean, the only stat that I truly care about on Monday Night Football is the score. I don't care if we have 4 rushing yards and 6 passing yards the whole day. So with 2-0 victory for the Rams, I'm in. I'm all for it. I don't even care. We'll worry about the next one the next time. But either way, I really like both these guys, man. I really like them shining in the postseason. I think is ultimately what I'm getting at here. I like Kupp and Nacua to walk into the playoffs with a different vibe. So that's what I'm looking for in this one. And speaking of, people walking into the playoffs with a different vibe and leaders really shining when they need to shine, give me tight end Tyler Higbee. That's right, man. Big Rig Higgs, the another team leader, man. So him just being out on the field, I think, is massive for this team. Not only is he obviously a solid combo with Matthew Stafford, but the way he's able to run block as well, top tier, dude. Top tier. Big fan of Tyler Higbee, Big Rig Higgs. That's absolutely awesome. He got to play last week as well, so he was not one of the starters that was held out. But I think that he's still getting back into it, which is totally reasonable. He was hurt all year, got hurt in the wild card round last year. Kirby Joseph, we all know he hates tight ends. He goes after him and stuff. So just kind of interesting. Obviously, we're seeing him come back. Tyler Higbee, that is, come back into the fold now. I liked him playing last week. Keep that rhythm going because I feel like now is about the time where he should be like, okay, I'm back in my groove. And now we're into the playoffs, so it's good timing. Unless he's not. Then obviously we're going to look at that. But I think that ultimately we're in a good spot right now, timing-wise, with Tyler Higbee getting back into the action. And your advantage here going for the Rams offense going against the Vikings defense, I am giving the advantage here to the Rams. And maybe that's because I'm a Rams fan, and so be it. This is my show, and I'll do what the hell I want. And second of all, it's because I really do just believe in this team. I believe in the Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee combo. I believe in Kyron Williams being able to torch it up on the ground. I also like this Rams offensive line to bully the Vikings defensive line. We've seen it happen multiple occasions this year, and I think that the Rams are one of those teams that has the personnel to do it as well. So that's what I'm looking for in this one. I'm giving the advantage to the Rams offense. I think that points will be scored in this one by both sides in fairness, but the Rams offense, give me that over the Vikings defense. Let's flip over to the other side. This is the Vikings offense going against the Rams D. Vikings offense is a top 12 unit in the NFL. The Rams defense, 26th in the league, so not crazy numbers there, but I would say improving over the last month or so. Passing attack for the Vikings, 6th in the league, going against the 20th ranked pass defense for the Rams. Running the rock, almost 110 for the Vikings offense. That's 19th in the NFL, and going against the 22nd ranked run defense from the Rams. Those numbers, I wouldn't say necessarily skewed, but there's like 2 games that really spiked that number. And then points being put up, top 10 for the Vikings offense, ranking 9th, 25.4, and the Rams defense is 17th, 22.7 given up. The Vikings offense is converting 40% of their third downs. That's 12th in the league, and the Rams giving up over 40. That's 20th in the NFL. So nothing too crazy here. Defensively, I think for the Rams, when we're looking at the numbers and the rankings, we're obviously taking a look at the entire season. And I also just don't think we can look at the let's go week 2 Rams against, the Rams today. That defense, basically day and night, basically a different unit back then. Because you look at like week 2, and I'm thinking of that Arizona game where, Verse and Fisk in their second career games, Kobe Turner in his second game as a captain, Byron Young, obviously second game, second year, stuff like that. And a bunch of just young secondary players. We didn't have, Darius Williams, Akello wasn't here, like stuff like that. So obviously just a very different situation for the Rams defense in the early portion of the season. So I think that when we're looking at the rankings of this, you do got to take that into consideration. And I do think take a look at maybe like the last 4 or 5 or so games where there are some big performances in there. You take a look at like the Buffalo Bills game, stuff like that. But then there's also some really good performances where the Rams had 3 straight games not giving up double-digit points. That kind of stuff is obviously really, really solid. So when you're taking a look at these rankings, and I mainly talk about this for the Rams defense, that it's kind of hard to put too much stock in like the fact that the Rams are 26th in total defense. It's like, well, yeah, they are, but I mean, they're playing a lot better than they had been most of the year right now. So take that into consideration. Sam Darnold last week had a pretty rough day against the Detroit Lions. They were just in his face all day long. He went 18 for 41 against Detroit last week. So obviously pressure is a situation that we're looking at. If the Rams are able to pull off some really exotic blitz packages or just be able to generate pressure without blitzing, which is something that the Rams can do with the fearsome 2020 foursome up here, But to get into the face of Sam Darnold, I think is step one. That is number one at the top of the list of the defense. Get into Sam Darnold's face. Number two, do what you can to get Jefferson out of the game. Do what you can. Let those other guys beat you. Let an Addison beat you. Let Jones go, but don't let Jefferson do it. You know what I mean? Because if we're letting Addison and Jones be the guys, I still think that the Rams would be able to outduel that. But you throw in a Justin Jefferson in there, and all bets are off, dude. That guy is crazy. So obviously that makes it a little bit of a different situation. And he and Darnold have been playing well together. Last week, again, just nothing that crazy. He started looking a little bit frustrated, and once they cut to a really sweaty Justin Jefferson on the sideline, and he's got his anger face on, it's game over, dude. The Vikings lost. So you can pull that off, dude. I like it, man. But yeah, defense for the Rams, definitely still super, super young, but I think that they've played absolutely great football. I think that John Johnson potentially coming back into the fold is undervalued at this point, even by Rams fans. I don't think this is getting enough, airtime. And maybe it is. Maybe I've been at work all day, and maybe I don't know what everybody else is talking about. Okay, so maybe it's being hit totally respectably, but I think that it's. I just haven't seen a lot on it. And John Johnson, before he got hurt, he was playing like one of the best safeties in the NFL. So I pumped to get him back in the action, man, for sure. Rams front also has a chance to just get after Darnold, which is exactly how we know that's how you get to him. That's how you mess with him. That's how you make him have a rough day. You just mess with him all day long. And if you're not quite there, push him down still. You know what I mean? Just be there. Make him feel you all day long. And that's going to be massive for not only the Rams, obviously, in a way to win a football game, but secondary as well is very opportune. So I don't think it's impossible that we see some hurried passes from Darnold that potentially get picked off, man. So, but step one, got to get into his face. But Justin Jefferson, definitely one of those guys. He is just one of those guys. He may go off. Just don't let him and others go off on you. That's really it. Because if he's doing it and Addison's doing it, then, I mean, that's when you're going to run into some problems for sure. Best matchup in this one. Yeah, we're going to hit Justin Jefferson pretty heavy in this one. D-Will versus Justin Jefferson. All right, that is definitely the big matchup here. Williams was back for the Rams before that game against Minnesota earlier in the year in Week 8, Thursday Night Football. But that was also a long time ago. D-Will has had a bit of an up and down season. He's had games where you're like, this guy's on fire. And then he's had some times where you're like, you're a starter? Man, what are you doing out here? But either way, I like Darius Williams a lot, man. I'm pumped to have him back with the Rams for sure. But it has definitely been a bit of an up and down season. His tackling is where I think that he really comes into play this week big time. Obviously, when Jefferson's getting that ball, you at least got to get him down right away. He's been able to pull off some crazy stuff, though, man. So obviously, that's a tough task, man. Tough task covering one of the best in the NFL in Justin Jefferson. Let's not call it, let's not dice it up because we're going against, he's our opponent this week. He is one of the best in the NFL. There's no way to dance around that. So obviously, he's going to be a big target for the Rams defense this week. But just, force the Vikings to use their other tools. Force the Vikings to pull out the other guys as well. If Johnny Munt is doing some damage to us, then so be it. Just don't let it be Jefferson all the time, man. Because if it's Johnny Munt, chances are we're probably playing pretty good football, man. So doing okay. Take a look at the 3 to C on the Rams defensive side here. We're going to start with Jared Verse. It's so easy to put him on here every week because he's so sick, dude. So sick. Numbers definitely dwindled as far as sacks go, especially over the course of the season. Had one week 1, I had, 1.5 against Minnesota in the first game. 4.5 on the year, though. So nothing too crazy for Jared Verse sack-wise. But I think that that's largely in part to the attention that he's been getting over the course of the season. A lot more eyeballs going over to his side. A lot more help. Those left guards creeping in this way a little bit more, not so much on the inside, which is exactly where I think Braden Fisk is just lighting people up because it's like, who do you go for? There's only wrong answers. You know what I mean? Like you can't pick right because whoever you pick, the other one's going to kill you. So, I mean, obviously, good stuff there. But Jared Verse, man, the athleticism that we see from Jared Verse is sometimes insane. Sometimes the way watching him get off the line and bully some people, sometimes like, God dang, man. Like, stop being so rude to these guys, Jared. But obviously we love to see it. Be as rude as you want to this time, man. It's playoff time, so hell yeah. But yeah, Verse had a second half against Minnesota in the first meeting, and we'll be looking to do some damage against Cam Robinson this go around. So they, of course, oh man, I'm blanking on the name now. Oh man, who is their great left tackle? He's really good. Either way, he got hurt against the Rams in their last game, and then they traded for Cam Robinson. And I like Cam Robinson. I think he's really good. I've only really heard from one Vikings fan, and he's saying he doesn't like him. I don't know. I like Cam Robinson. I think he's a really good player, and I think that this specific person, I think, is just being too critical of Cam Robinson. It's like, dude, that's a guy you traded for middle of the season. It's like, cut him some slack, man. But Jared Verse going against Robinson all day should be a good matchup for the Rams. I like that. Next up, Darius Williams, dude. Give me D-Will, man. Big task for him this week. As a bad day from Darius Williams could mean the last game for the Rams this season, and I kind of do mean that. I know it's a team sport, but if we can't cover Justin Jefferson, it's gonna be a rough day, man. That guy is able to kill your game for sure. So Darius Williams, definitely a player to keep your eyes on this week as going against one of the best in the NFL. Like I said, I'm not going to just hammer that the whole time because I still hope he fails miserably this weekend. But I think it goes back to that quote from Sean McVay of like respect, not fear. You know, like I respect Justin Jefferson. I'm not afraid of him. Because first of all, he's not going to do anything to me. But also, I mean, I respect him, man. He's a good player. So, and last up here on the 3 to C, I'm going to go to Michael Hoyt, one of the only defensive players who was here for the Super Bowl run. We don't have that many left. There's only a few. Michael Hoyt, though, being one of the studs from that season, looking for Hoyt to be one of the guys that can get the sideline rolling a bit. If there's a situation where, fourth quarter, we're down by 4, I'm looking for a camera to switch over to the sideline and Michael Hoyt be on the sideline yelling at everybody to get everybody fired up, man. So I like Hoyt in this one, specifically because of his experience with the Rams and going back to things that we saw in like before the season started when Michael Hoyt I don't even remember the show. I think it was probably Behind the Grind, where he's sitting there with Jared Verse and Byron Young and Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk. He's sitting there with these guys. They're all getting dinner and stuff like that. I think he was grilling and stuff, and he was saying, he's like, it's worth it, man. It is worth it to get there, to push, to work, and to go all the way to win the Super Bowl. It is worth it. And he's telling this to these guys, and I'm hoping and thinking in the world of Michael Hoyt which is such a team player, such like a Ram through and through. I like Michael Hoyt this week to bring that conversation back up and be like, remember guys, I was talking about this of like it's worth it to do this. It's worth it to bust your ass, get after it, man. To win that Super Bowl, it is worth it. So I'm hoping that kind of energy comes in again. From we saw it in August. And now we get to see it in January. Dude, sign me up, dude. I'm getting more fired up as I talk. This is going to be so fun, man. How are we supposed to wait the whole time, dude? Last game of the weekend, NFL? Stop doing this to me. And why does Houston always get the first one, man? What are we doing out here? Anyway, let's move on. Let's look at some connections here. Some former Rams who are now on the Vikings. We'll start with wide receiver Brandon Powell. Beat Powell. Had that punt return for a touchdown against Minnesota a couple years back for the Rams. That was rather exciting stuff. Tight end Johnny Muntz. Running back Cam Akers. The Vikings have officially traded for Cam Akers 2 times now, so they really like him. That's cool stuff. Wide receiver Tristan Jackson. He is on the practice squad of Minnesota. Head coach Kevin O'Connell, KOC. He was with us, of course. Special teams coordinator Matt Daniel. Vince Phillips. Assistant inside linebackers coach Thad Bogardus. Defensive line coach Marcus Dixon. And senior offensive assistant Chris O'Hara all have spent time with the Rams. There are no former Vikings on the Rams. Keep those dweebs off our roster. Some NFL connections for you. Darius Williams played in Jacksonville with Cam Robinson, as well as Shaq Griffin. Cam Curl played in Washington with Fabian Moreau, safety Bobby McCain, and tight end Sammis Reyes. Hunter Long played in Miami with wide receiver Trent Sherfield Sr., offensive linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel, linebacker Calvin Munson, and defensive coordinator Brian Flores, who did just get an interview. I don't remember where, though. I like Flores, though. I think he's a great coach. Matthew Stafford played in Detroit with wide receiver Brandon Powell, as well as tight end TJ Hawkinson. D-Rob, Demarcus Robinson, played in Baltimore with tight end Josh Oliver. And Kevin Dotson and Akello Witherspoon, they played in Pittsburgh with Brian Flores. He was the senior defensive assistant and linebackers coach at that point. So obviously not working super close with K-Dot, but they were in the building and stuff. You know, you get it. And some college connections for you. D-Rob, Demarcus Robinson, played at Florida with Jonathan Bullard and Brandon Powell. Josh Carty played at Stanford with tackle Walter Rouse. And then KT Leviston played at K-State with Dalton Reisner. AJ Jackson played at Iowa with tight end TJ Hawkinson. Tyler Johnson played at Minnesota with Blake Cashman. Tutu Atwell, the 2-2 train, played at Louisville with Jonathan Grenard. Omar Spates played at Oregon State with Blake Brandel. Byron Young and Jalen McCullough played at Tennessee with Theo Jackson and Ty Chandler. Let's see here. Kobe Turner played at Wake Forest with Michael Juergens, who is a backup, so probably not going to see that matchup, although that would be so sick. Puka Nacua played at Washington with defensive lineman Taki Taimani, I'm pretty sure. Puka Nacua also played at BYU with linebacker Max Tooley. And finally, tight end Tyler Higbee played at Western Kentucky with wide receiver Lucky Jackson. That's your connection, and that is your game preview. Minnesota Vikings at the Los Angeles Rams for a wild card weekend, super wild card weekend, getting the Monday night time slot, which I'm going to write the NFL. I think I hate this. I hate it. It's a weekday. Playoff games shouldn't happen on the weekdays. In fact, we should minimize weekday NFL action as much as possible. Yes, I'm talking to you, Thursday night football. I hate you. Most of the time. Most of the time, I hate that. So this last time it worked out for us because we played the 49ers and then we had a little bit of a mini bye before going out to the Jets. And that was kind of nice, I suppose. But either way, we got a big old football game going on this weekend. Minnesota Vikings coming to town. Minnesota, definitely, I mean, they were right in there to be the number 1 seed. So going into this situation, going into this game, I like the matchup here. I like the way the Rams match up against Minnesota. And I am kind of, in my brain, just kind of ballparking a 10-point win for the Rams. That's just how I feel the game will unfold, a 10-point game. Like it did last time. I mean, ultimately, it really was more of an 8-point game with that last play there. But ultimately, I feel decent about this game. And I know that those kind of comments can always come back to bite you. But I think that the Rams are in a really good spot right now, getting into the playoffs. And being at home, I think, is absolutely massive. This is a team you've already beaten before in prime time. And that was also in week 8, so you get to kind of tell your young guys, your young defense and stuff like that, like, hey, you guys have already done this. Go do it again, kind of thing. So I'm here for it, man, and hopefully we get another game preview for you next week. And make sure you also check out Tuna and the Sheriff on Tuesday, as well, as we'll definitely be talking about this game and what happened in the super wild card weekend. But, of course, big old football game. Minnesota, Los Angeles Rams, wild card weekend, man. Let's keep it going. We need 4 more dubs to do a bunch of these. To do a bunch of these. Heck yeah.